Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lukhaup. Wikipedia states that Garra flavatra, or the Panda Garra, is a Southeast Asian freshwater fish from the carp family. During the research for this video, I also read very often that it is written that this is one of the most beautiful species within the genus Garra. And in the genus Garra, there are over 120 described species and several undescribed ones. And a fact is that it is the most beautiful species, not one of the most beautiful species, but if you look at the other species, they are all gray. Of course, some of the other species of the genus have here and there a little bit red in the fins, but compared to these guys, they're all gray. And in the internet, it very often says that this is an algae eater. In my view, the name algae eater is not quite correct because this fish is actually an omnivore. It means that it eats everything. It eats algae very, very well, and that's why I'm discussing the species here. But it is an omnivore. It eats algae, but it also eats small invertebrates, it eats worms. So everything that grows on rocks when they graze the stones or the wood in the habitat. So what you see here is a typical Garra habitat. It's not a habitat of Garra flavatra, but it's very, very similar to that of flavatra. This is a river in Sarawak, and a different Garra species lives here. But as I said, the stones, the substrate, it's very typical of Garra species. They like fast-flowing water, oxygen-rich water, and not too warm. I have read that the temperature can be around 19 to 20 degrees Celsius, that's about 65, 68 Fahrenheit, up to 27, so that would be in the 80s, which is usually correct, but these streams are usually around 24 or 25 degrees Celsius, so that's about 75 in Fahrenheit. Of course, it can always vary downwards a little and upwards too. In some articles I read that the animals would grow up to a size of about 8 to 10 centimeters, that's about 4 inches. But I cannot confirm this. I have never seen an animal that was larger than 8 to 9 centimeters, which is 3.5 inches. So most stay between 8 and 9 centimeters, so that is about the size, and in my opinion they are really big. And I also talked to scientists, they have never measured a bigger one. And I am observing these animals for several years now. I can have access to the wholesale, and when I go there I try to measure them as well, and I have never seen bigger ones. If you know better, let me know in the comments. I would advise to put them in aquariums that aren't nano aquariums, but they are a bit larger, so around 100 liters, that's like 26 gallons, so around 1 meter or more in edge length, because they need space to swim. That's what I would recommend, but in my opinion they are naturally algae eaters alongside all the others that we have. We have the beautiful shrimps, we have very nice snail species that really are great algae eaters. But in terms of fish, when it comes to fish, I would say that this is one of the most beautiful algae eaters, or fish that also eats algae. In the habitat they occur also in larger groups, so there may be up to 10 or 20 animals in such a group. However, they don't swim together that close, but they spread out over the rocks, just as you saw in the habitat video. There's also a Garra species swimming around, and that's why I would also recommend that you keep them in an aquarium. Now it could be like 200 liters, 50 gallons, or even bigger, and there you can have between 5-10 animals, so that's what I would recommend. The difference between male and female is difficult. You can't really see what is a male and what is a female unless the animals are breeding. Then the males get these white tubercles on their heads, and that's a sign that the breeding season has started. So that's the sign that you can recognize that they are males. Females don't have that. Females are usually a bit more compact, a bit rounder if you like, especially when they are pregnant. The males are territorial. This means that they are not only territorial towards their own species, for example, they chase each other back and forth, especially the dominant males, the other more weaker animals, but even if other fish get too close, they can get a bit rough, but they don't go so far to kill other fish or other animals of the same species. I've been filming and observing them for the last 4 years, so over a longer period of time, because I want to make really some good statements about the species. Shrimps, for example, they don't harm them at all. Small snails, tiny, very tiny snails, may also fall victim to the species if they are simply sucked up, but I have never seen it. Invertebrates in general have nothing to fear here, not even other fish, except that they are sometimes pushed away, just like we have seen in the scene here, but other than that, they are very harmless. Breeding these species is certainly possible, and they are also bred in larger farms in Southeast Asia, because they are of course only restricted to 3 streams or rivers. The species is therefore endemic to Myanmar, in a part of Myanmar, and is therefore naturally endangered if too many animals are caught, which why breeding makes sense in this case. If you want to breed them, you should of course provide a habitat condition. That means oxygen-rich water, enough food, and that includes of course the algae, but also other stuff like bloodworms, tubifex, everything that sinks to the bottom. And as you can see in the video, they are really good at rasping everything off, and they do it several times. They are working all the time, and the only time when they don't eat is when they rest, and these phases are usually just a few seconds long. These fish are day active and very active. That means that you see them all day long and not like other types. For example, catfish, you almost only see them at night. Other fish that eat algae. So you can also enjoy the animals. And if we talk about food again, what you can feed them, well, as I mentioned before, they graze the stones in their habitat. There are also small invertebrates in there, algae of course. So the diet should include everything, because I know that for these type of fish it's important to mention it as much as possible, so you feed them the right stuff. So plant-based food is great for them. You can feed them the spirulina taps, of course, and you can give them also spinach, cucumbers. Some people have even told me that they fed them melons, which is also okay, but you have to be careful that the water quality doesn't change. So if you leave the stuff longer in the aquarium, take care of the water quality, and usually after 1 or 2 days you should put the stuff out again. I also had a longer conversation with my friend Jürgen Wirtz, who is the owner of the Aqua Lounge, and he's a specialist of this genus. And we talked about animals and what he would recommend in his opinion, as he had them in his aquariums for many years now. He definitely covered the aquarium because there are stories that these fish like to jump out, especially if the conditions don't suit them. And what I would definitely recommend in comparison with the habitat is no sharp rocks in the aquarium. So I mentioned this because maybe some people don't know it, but no sharp objects in the aquarium. People put a lot of different stuff, decoration in their aquariums, but this is something that you should look after, that they cannot hurt themselves. So I have been thinking about getting more of these fish for my other aquariums. I thought about that for a long time now, and I have come to the conclusion that my aquariums, not all of them are right for these fish species. You may be surprised to hear that, because even with all the observations I have now and the scenes from the habitat, I think I have too few stones in most of my aquariums, or not enough hard substrate like rocks or wood, because my entire bottom usually is overgrown with Eleucharis pusilla, and I have a lot of nano aquariums. So I have one big aquarium which is good for them, but the rest too small, not enough rocks or not enough wood, so I better keep them just in one aquarium, even if they are great algae eaters. I have only one big aquarium, and in most of my other aquariums, in the small ones, I have a lot of nano aquariums. I have a monoshrimp, Neocaridina, and a few of these guys, Paraotocinklus haraldoi. They don't get that big, like 3 to 4, maybe 5 centimeters, and that's why they don't require that much food. They can live in these aquariums. They always sit on the branches of roots, or directly on the roots, or on the glass. and I have just usually 2 to 3 in the small aquariums, but in the big one you can put of course more. So also here the point is that I have Eleucharis pusilla, the dwarf hairgrass I think it's called, and usually algae eaters or fish that sit on rocks and hard substrate, they don't like the hairgrass too much. So if you have rocks in the aquarium, I really can recommend them. They are great. If you have bigger aquariums also, they are beautiful fish. They are great algae eaters. I think they make a top job. And if you like this video, leave a comment. You can subscribe to the channel if you want, and I see you in the next video.